If I had to start over new in 2020 with large format, what kind of kit would I end up with? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hey there, welcome to Large Format Friday. I'm your host, Matt Marash, and if this is the first time you're stopping by, here's a playlist of our entire second season of LFF. And if you haven't subscribed yet, each and every Friday, we're going to be chatting about something new in the world of large format photography. You know, I got a Facebook reminder today, and I normally hate those little memories things when they pop up. It just reminds me of how old I'm getting and seeing stuff I don't want to see. But today's was actually pretty poignant. Today marks 10 years since I started my large format journey. It's been exactly a decade. And looking at this little picture, it reminded me of so many different things. There's three, boxes of film there. One is a 10-sheet box of T-Max 400, one's a box of FP100C, and one's a Pro Pack of T-Max 400 and 120. I remember I added that box of FP100C so it could bump me up to $100 for free shipping. I got all that for $100. And here a decade later, that would cost me almost $300 just to have that. So needless to say, pricing has changed quite a bit. Everything's gotten a lot more expensive in large format, and that would most certainly affect my decisions if I had to start new in large format today. And a lot of people don't know how I got started in large format, so I wanted to share that really quickly too. I didn't do it the way I normally go into things, where I go into like research mode and I start looking up cameras and reviews and I kind of assess the market for prices really quick. I was pretty much like thrust into large format. The reason being, I was going over to my professor's office to ask him some questions about an upcoming project, and I saw he was cleaning up this beautiful chrome camera from what looked like the 40s or 50s, and he was getting ready to throw it out. It ended up being an Eastman Commercial B 8x10, and when I asked him about it, he was like, "Oh, this old thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, what is it? Is that a camera?" Like, I had no idea. And he saw the spark in my eyes. I was smitten, and he said, "If you want to use this, I don't have any film for it, but if you order some film, I can show you how to use it. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to." And like, not even an hour later, I'd already bought the stuff online, and I was like, "No, I'll have it in 2 days. We're gonna get to know this thing." So that's what today is 10 years from. But at the same time, I have to kind of understand that not many people had that kind of advantage going into large format. And a lot of the reason that I shoot 8x10 cameras is because I was gifted an 8x10 with this agreement that as long as I ran film through it and I needed a camera, it was mine to use. A few years back when I moved to Columbus, I ended up recycling that camera. I got the Eastman Commercial B back into my professor's hands so he could get it to a new student who was also showing interest in large format, so kind of continuing the cycle. I didn't recycle it for parts, don't worry. It was a really cool opportunity, and I was very privileged to have access to that camera. And I think the only reason I shot 8x10 was for that reason, because I learned on it. If you learn on a certain thing, you're gonna get very used to it. So it's kind of like being gifted a higher end car when you're younger. You're just used to a different level of performance. If I had to pay for all that stuff myself, there is no way I would have been an 8x10. And that's why I wanted to chat with you guys about what my large format starter kit would be. If I was starting fresh today, there is no doubt, pretty much 100%, that I would be shooting a 4x5 camera. And the reason being, it's just less expensive. With 4x5 cameras, you're paying less money, getting a smaller camera. There's more options of different types of cameras out there. There's more lenses that cover 4x5. There's more films that are available. Like, all the advantages are solely in the court of 4x5. Yeah, you get a little bit more resolution in the larger formats from there, but you hit severe limitations the second you go up from 4x5, and sometimes even down a little bit from 4x5. So that's why I think it would definitely be 4x5. I know I still like doing landscape and working outside and a little bit of portraiture. So, what type of 4x5 camera would it be? Again, I'm buying the camera. It's probably gonna be the cheapest thing I can get my hands on. Not something like super DIY, but also something that's gonna give me a little bit of wiggle room to, kind of grow. I was at Midwest Photo earlier, and I picked up a camera that they had in their used inventory, and I wanted to show you this is pretty much what I would buy if I was into it today. So they had up for grabs this old speed graphic. And why a speed graphic? Well, it was the only like folder type camera they had. There was no field cameras. Field cameras are great, but they can often cost 3 to 10 times as much as these folders. This speed graphic, I think it's like $150. and it's got plenty for a beginning 4x5 camera. My first camera, the Eastman commercial, came with a standard lens, which in 8x10 was a 355mm lens or 14-inch lens. So I think a standard lens would be a great first lens for any large format shooter. And in this case, that's why I have the 150 Schneider Xenar on here. Now this is an older lens, kind of matching the era of this camera, maybe a little bit younger. It's a pretty modest lens. It's 150mm and it's f4.5. So that's gonna give us, honestly, plenty of light for most shooting situations. If you wanted to save a little bit more money, you could go with a more modern 150 f5.6. But total, this camera and this lens, you're looking about 250 bucks between the two of these. That's dirt cheap. There's not even a brand new, like really like crazy do-it-yourself camera that is at this price point and gets you a lens. When you're getting started, I recommend keeping costs low. As long as the camera holds light, that's great. As long as the shutter fires at all the shutter speeds and it's pretty decent and you like the look of it, that's great too. So I would try to keep costs as low as possible. If I wanted to be a little bit more spendy, like I had more than $500–600 in my pocket, maybe I would go for something like an Intrepid version 3 or 4, or like a really heavily used Wista or Takahara, but just the camera is starting to break the budget at that point, and that's why I really like this. It frees up more capital, so I can get the other pieces of large format fluff, the other accessories I need. So that kind of settles like the first two pieces of my beginning again kit. As far as film holders go, I have learned my lesson over the years, and I try to keep the film holders as modern as possible when it comes to those. So I would more than likely get some modern plastic holders. That's gonna be a plastic film holder with plastic dark slides. Some of the older ones are plastic with metal dark slides. Those are usually fine, but you're gonna have to check the tape and make sure they look good. But as many film holders as you feel comfortable with getting started. Getting started, having at least 3 is nice. That's 6 shots, that's pretty good. I'm kind of addicted to film holders now, and I have way, way more than this, but like 3 to 5 is a good starting number. Used, you can pick up 4x5 film holders for 10 to 15 bucks each. The higher end ones will cost more, the really crappy ones will cost less. And you know, if we're talking just film holders, so nothing else on the table, no camera, we're just comparing the film holders that go in this beast, this 8x10 camera, to a 4x5 film holder. Even a used 8x10 film holder can be $75 to $100. And you haven't even put film in it yet. That's just what's holding the film. Everything gets more pricey and more scarce and more limited once you jump up to a bigger size. To me, it's just kind of common sense. Like if I'm fronting all of this cost, I'm gonna keep it as cost effective because I now know these aren't the most important things. I can always upgrade this stuff at any point and I'm not gonna lose that much money on it. If I cheap out on this, and it leaks light, well, that's ruining the rest of this experience. So I'm not gonna cheap out here on the holders. I'm gonna get some good holders and make sure that those work for my kit. What else do we need for our large format camera? Well, I'm gonna need a light meter. And this is another one of those areas where I'm not really gonna cheap out. I really do like my handheld spot meter, but if you wanted to knock about 200 bucks off of the cost of this total kit, you can move from this to a handheld light meter. If you just do a lot of portraiture and it's mostly outside or in a controlled studio, you can forego this and use one of the free light meter apps that's on your phone. I do a lot of landscape and I'm usually metering off things that are very far in the distance where a spot meter makes sense. So this is about 200 bucks right here. Let's see, what else would we need for the kit? We need a cable release. So sometimes you can ask the camera shop that's selling you the lens and get one of them for free. Otherwise, you're paying another 5–6 bucks. Get a cable release, that's fine. A loupe. I used to have a cheap loupe and I really didn't like the little $10 plastic loupes. I do like dedicated loupes, but they're a little, this is one of the more spendy parts of the kit. This loupe costs about as much as the lens does. So these are about 80 to 100 bucks for a good loupe. This is a Toyo. You can find Horseman ones. There's some knockoff versions of the Horseman. I think they're called Goursey. You can find those on Amazon and eBay, but a good magnification loupe is fine. Let's see, what else do we need for the kit? Oh yeah, we need a bag. Here is a beer cooler bag. This will hold everything in my kit and it's free neoprene padding. This was 25 cents at a garage sale, so that will do fine. And last but not least for my large format kit, I'm gonna need a tripod. I'm gonna need a set of sticks. Any old aluminum tripod that holds a lot of weight, something that holds 10 to 15 pounds is fine for this whole kit. This is an old Manfrotto. This is a little heavier than I think I would need. This is a 0.55 Manfrotto. You could go with a Manfrotto 190 or a 290, and then just like a simple 3-way head. 3-way heads aren't my favorite for large format cameras, but they're inexpensive. Brand new three-way heads can cost like 100 or so bucks, but a used kit like that 055 and a three-way head, you're spending another 200 or so. You don't really want to get a really crappy tripod because, well, if your whole camera kit falls, it's not going to be very effective. And last but not least, we need to talk film. Now, I'm pretty opinionated about film. I think when you're learning, you want to stick with a film that you're already familiar with from roll film and kind of to eliminate just one more variable in the process. If you don't even know how to like load film and stuff, yeah, use some expired sheets that you don't care about and learn the ropes, kind of practice. But once you're out there and you're making exposures, the last thing you want to do is throw in a variable of a film you don't know or don't know how it was stored. So get something like some Ilford or some Kodak. I learned on T-Max, and if I had to do it again, it probably wouldn't be T-Max just because the price is so much higher. But also, 4x5 film, there's more emulsions and they're a lot less expensive. I can shoot 3 to 4 times as much 4x5 film as I can 8x10 film. So that's really what it comes down to, guys, is less money up front so I have more money to spend on the things that are gonna matter for my large format shots, which are gonna be keeping them light tight, putting good film through it, and making sure it's not going anywhere with my tripod and getting a good exposure. So I really think the camera is more of a personal choice. There's so many different types out there, and that's one of the great things about shooting with 4x5. If all of this sounds really foreign because you might know me from the film photography podcast where I totally talk up 8x10 all the time, the reason is I had a huge leg up in starting with large format. I was gifted an 8x10 to use, so I didn't have to purchase a lot of those things up front. I did eventually purchase more film holders and lenses, so all of that stuff I didn't put into the camera, I offset into buying more expensive film. And I'm really glad I did that, but anymore, when I look at how much my friends shooting 4x5 shoot versus how much I shoot, I get kind of jealous at times. So I would definitely, if starting fresh today, 100% I would go with 4x5. And I don't want this to be too much of a do as I say, not as I do, because if there is something I'm doing where I'm genuinely running through a lot of sheets of film, I have to kind of take a step back and ask myself, is this worth that extra money and effort to do it in 8x10? And if it's not, well, I have a reducing back that I can put on my Cinar, or I also have one for my Takahara, so I can shoot 4x5. That's why I do have some 4x5 holders. So that's what it comes down to. For a starter kit, I strongly, strongly recommend getting going in 4x5. It makes a lot more financial sense. There's a lot more stuff out there. Those will be way more available than finding the much larger stuff. Ultra large format, now you're getting into like a personal choice sort of thing. 5x7 and ultra large format, you're even more limited from all the options that you had in 4x5 and even 8x10. And now it's just way more niche, way more specialty. Pretty much every lens you have to consider, well, I might like it, but does it cover? So there's all these other little things you'll have to worry about. So that's my starter kit. So what was your starting kit in large format? Is it the one you use now? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you have any other questions about getting started in large format, you can always feel free to shoot me an email, largeformatquestions@gmail.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll catch you next time for more LFF.